Very good. It's 10 a.m. The meeting is being recorded. So as we do that, let's be invigorated by a karakia to start the meeting. Linda, would you like to share the karakia with us?
Tēnā koe. Tēnei au, ta hapa nei, te tiri nei. Ta pōku nei, I toko reo, mō toko mana, mō toko ihi, te māpihi mōria, kia mau, kia ita. Huye,
Yeah. Many thanks, kia ora, Linda. General welcome to everyone, members of the public. Thank you for joining us. Regan, good to see you from the media and the team, a number of you from the staff that you'll be speaking to. Various papers that we've got today. Special welcome, Michelle Morse, who's come all the way from Glenorchy. Michelle is our General Manager of Strategy and Policy at QLDC, and we have ELT joining us every meeting. And welcome to you, Michelle. Thank you. And Deputy Mayor and Councillor Smith is in attendance as well, so thank you for that. No apologies today, so I'll move on to leaves of absence. If anyone is going to be away for a period of time between the next meeting, I'll go around the table. Yes, great. Chris, what dates are you with?
The 3rd, or King's birthday, until the Thursday, which I think is the 6th.
3rd to the 6th, very much. Everyone else good? I'm away 22nd to the 30th of June. And John?
Just tomorrow till Sunday.
Okay, tomorrow till Sunday. Very good. Can I have someone move the leaves of application? Linda, any seconders? Cody, all those in favour? Pass that. Any conflicts of interest today on any item on the agenda that anyone wants to note? Very good. We don't need to pass that. There's no matters lying on the table that we've rolled over from the last meeting. So we move into the really engaging part of the session where we have public forum, and Dan Molan. Dan, would you like to come and join us? Dan's from Mahawea Community Association. We're talking about the SHA deed, and yes, really interested in what you've got to say, Danny, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here today, really appreciate it. I'll just frame the topic as we see it for a few seconds before I give you the story up. So a Special Housing Act deed was made between the Council and Universal Developments a number of years ago. The first paragraph of that deed is to improve housing affordability for people. And that's the main driver of everything that should have happened thereafter. The only party able to exercise any assurance mechanisms over the integrity of the deed is Council itself. It's important to keep in mind that there are 3 parties affected by the deed. There's Council, there's the developer, and there's the community. And as I mentioned, the main thrust of the Special Housing Act itself is to benefit the community. So I would invite you, and I'll be really grateful if all of your thoughts in the story that I tell you focuses on all 3 parties affected by that and the main driver of the deed in the first place. The deed's been in place for a number of years, and overall that development will see roughly $500 million flow through it in one form or another. So we think in that regard it's a topic that should have some prominence in your mind. We ourselves, the Community Association, and many community members have been puzzled for some time about the outcome of affordability. As many of you will have done the same thing, we regularly look at the prices of houses and land packages being sold around there, and there's never been anything even vaguely close to the original claims made in favour of the deed. At the time, some of you would have been involved in the meetings. There were a number of community meetings examining the proposal to establish the deed, and on balance, the community supported the special housing area because of the beneficial effect it would have for the community. That essentially hasn't eventuated. We put forward, in fact, Louise independently put forward, Louise as a member of the Community Association, I'm speaking on her behalf today, an official Information Act request to find out what had happened, essentially in terms of any assurance steps taken to ensure the integrity of the deed. From what we can see, the answer is nothing. And on that basis, we published an open letter, I think a month or so ago. A number of you may have read it. We have received sort of an initial sketch of further actions that may be taken by Council to follow through on the questions asked, but most of them look like actions in retrospect It's critical to remember that the Official Information Act request should have established all the facts in relation to the questions asked and being provided to us. So any facts that are discovered post-fact, we should have those already. We don't appear to have. So if I round out, I've only got a lot of assignments, so if I round out, I'm just going to reiterate, there's three parties. The key party that we should be thinking about is community. They were the ones who, on balance, supported the special housing area. We all know that housing affordability in this country is extremely challenging. And from what we can see, nothing actually occurred to ensure that the deed in its terms was met. I'm happy to take questions.
Grady, you're across this, obviously, and not just because you live in Hawi. What sort of comfort could you give to Danny and the Hawi Community Association about this, the challenges around affordable housing in the East Lake Shore?
Well, I really appreciate the work that Danny Moyes and OLHA and John Langley, other people have been doing it, and I've been trying to champion this with the CEO and also various spots from Inlet and our strategic housing plan. And she's assured me that she is establishing the facts, going through a process of an independent legal review, as well as an independent assessment, and will be bringing a recommendation to council to make a suggestion how to move from here. And so I think my assurance is that we share the same sincerity that Danny has around housing affordability and ensuring that we are doing everything we can to do our part. I don't know if Michelle wants to talk further about that. That's how I see it from my.
I was just going to say, I think beautifully put around our sincerity and our commitment to the affordable housing challenge that we have, and as Councillor Chuck has identified, there is actually quite a detailed piece of work underway at the moment to really look into this and understand the aspects that are at play and that are causing the situation to occur. Obviously, it's in the context of the broader picture as well of affordability in the district. So that there are a number of levers. I'm really interested to hear your observations and your sense around the Lagoima request, because obviously that came through my team. I'm very happy to pick up with you afterwards if you feel there's any information lacking that we can fill the gaps with.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't know if there was information lacking. I did pick up on the language of facts. If facts are established that didn't flow through the OIA, we would be grateful if they were tacked onto that OIA and provided.
I'm not aware of any being omitted, but
just to establish the facts language isn't that what the OIA would have done?
You guys have picked that up. That's important, but slightly more technical. Has anyone got any other comments or anything that or questions I've got for Danny around this? We know it's all front of mind, and we do appreciate you continuing to raise it for us. Yeah. So we'll leave it. We've gone over 3 minutes, but that's just continue. We just continue to encourage you and support you in working on behalf of the community and bringing this to light. And obviously, one of the key conduits for that is Cody as well. So thanks, Danny. We have a deputation, which is a slightly more formal and slightly longer public presentation to the community board, and that's from Shaping Our Future. And John Glover and Rod Anderson are going to join us. And this is around the large piece of community engagement and community consultation work around Luggett that we have seen, and you are going to speak to. And thanks for your hard work and your hard mahi around that. It was a really enjoyable read. I think they might have had to print a few more sticky notes and or import a few more sticky notes into New Zealand after the number of sticky notes I saw there, but that showed the level of engagement. So the floor is yours, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Jeff. So I'm John Glover, the Executive Officer of Shaping Our Future, and I'm sure you all know Rod Anderson, who is Chair of the Luggett Community Association. And over the last 10 months, we've been working with the community to develop a long-term community vision. That report is now completed. We went through a couple of public workshops. We had 100 members of the community through there. We've had high levels of engagement, as we always do have in the Upper Clutha, which is great. Some things are always dependable, a bit like the clouded version. But it was really, really good. We did some survey work, again, high level of engagement. And then we had a working group of about 15 people that developed the desired outcomes from the workshops into some detailed recommendations. And the report sets out a very high level vision, a mission, and then a more developed vision statement. And falling out of that is 7 or 8 different areas where there's a described outcome. So the areas are the water infrastructure, the state highway, community, shops and services, tracks and trails, parks and reserves, environment, biodiversity and heritage. So, and for each of those topics, there's a desired outcome and then some initial recommendations to take forward. And what I've just circulated is really, I've just cut and pasted those recommendations that are facing council, because obviously some at ORC, a lot are within the community, others with landowners and heritage feature owners, but there's quite a few that that face the QLDC and its staff. I think the one message I'd love people to take away is that if you ever want to be the council that says, "Hi, I'm from the council, how can we help?" Then being cognizant of what the community is trying to achieve is really important. And so the parks team or the roading team or the planning team or infrastructure team should be, sort of mindful of where the community is trying to head and how you can help. There's nothing too extraordinary in the recommendations. There's nothing too surprising, but it's really good that it's created some consensus, through the community. And it's a starting point, and what we'll find is, because we do have sympathetic landowners there, we've got sympathetic property developers in Lugget who will pick up some of the stuff that's in the report and make it happen. So that's really, really encouraging. So what we'd sort of like to do is to formally present the report to the community board, and hoping that you'll formally receive it. And the next stage is that working with the community association, we'll probably organise some meetings with relevant councillors on the infrastructure committee to talk about some of the bigger issues facing Lugget and see what options there are to start taking those forward, as we will with Wānaka-Upper and ZTA on the state highway. They're probably the 2 biggest ones. Well, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, the only thing that I'd like to add is, you'll notice from the stuff that John sent you that there was lots and lots of opinions and ideas, and the driving behind it was the fact that nothing was put up as a preconceived idea. It was just, what do you think? What would you like to see? What would you, and those have all come into this, and then just sort of sorted through them all. But there was no, I mean, a case in point, which has been pointed out to me, the cricket ground camping ground. You'll notice in the report, nobody has mentioned it. So as far as the community as a whole is concerned, it's not a biggie.
Yeah, nice.
So that's the sort of thing. It was there, and it was the community's input into this document that we just wanted to.
I think it's been acknowledged. It was certainly no predetermination, and it was a real blank piece of paper to start with, and I think that certainly come through. Barry, you're the conduit, the liaison person as part of your portfolio between the community board and Lugget. Any Lugget Community Association? Any observations from you?
Well, I have a bit of history of shaping the future, of course, as well. But it's the one comment that I did get from a number of Lugget residents was that they really appreciated the opportunity through shaping the future to have some input to what they would like to see happen in their town. And there was no unrealistic pipe dreams, I guess, came out of it. It was all good, practical, usable stuff. So, I think it was a good exercise. Certainly the feedback I got was that the residents appreciated the opportunity.
Michelle, how does this? We've had a couple of other situations where we've received reports like Hard Wānaka, etc. And we've encouraged staff to lean on these and to refer to these when doing planning. Could you just maybe share briefly with the team how something like this will help influence decision making within council?
I think these place-based plans are always incredibly useful to provide a sense of context and a sense of character to the work that we do within council. I think it's a very good question as to how we distribute this throughout the organisation to get the maximum impact in an organisation that has a very full dance card at the moment. But I think the best course of action, as we've discussed a little before, is if you can share that period with me, I can ensure that the strategy team is across this and that we are then filtering it out to other groups as an input into the way that they do their work. But as a non-statutory document, it is more on that informal networked influence that we play within the organisation, but that would be my intent.
Any other comments or questions? Oh.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just to follow on from that while we've got the CEO here, just for going forward, understanding how the process works. So right from the scratch, we've been presented with another list of possible shaping our future things, but as a board, understanding what's happening without surprises. What's the process? Who actually applies for the Shaping Our Future activity? I guess it was the Wānaka Community Association on this occasion. And going forward, things like airport. Now, who's actually applying for it, and when do we get in the loop of understanding what's going on? How much does it cost? Can you give us a cost for producing the Nugget one? Have we got a different? If you were charging it out as a consultant or a company, how much would it cost? Because we know we'll be asked to fund Shaping Our Future from community grants. So it'd be good to know that, understand clearly, as a board, the process, because if we've got more of these happening, and like Michelle said, what do we do with it after we get it? Now, do we are receiving it to get the best impact? I don't take anything away. I think it's a great way of getting the ideas from the community, but it's just understanding the process and
John,
how it starts and where it finishes.
Do you want to briefly respond to that with the couple of minutes we have left?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So Shaping Our Future was started and set up by Queenstown Lakes District Council in 2011. And apart from 1 year last year when we had a surplus of funds, we've been funded every year since. So we're a partner organisation in that sense. The reports contain recommendations, and those reports get reviewed. So Arrowtown's, we did a review of the Arrowtown one last year to see what was current, what needed to be updated, what's already been achieved. You find the reports come up in all sorts of places. So, for example, the Queenstown Council resource consent for the BP roundabout and the bus hub. Our reports that we've done on transport, public transport, were all part of council's papers. They were parts of the application for those consents. So they get used in different ways. As a board, Shaping Our Future have agreed that to give the resource, i.e. me or whoever else does my job, to work alongside the communities to help develop the reports and take recommendations forward. So it's not a case of here's a report, right, we're on to the next one. So there's stuff here that faces Wānaka-Upper in the case of Leggett, so we will help make those introductions and facilitate the meetings and the conversations to develop those recommendations so they get taken forward.
Okay, well, John, one question: what's the next couple of reports that affect the Upper Clutha that are in the pipeline?
We've been asked by Highway Community Association to do some Highway-wide planting strategy workshops because they'd like us to do that. Yes. And we've been approached by the Wānaka Airport Users Group to workshop what basically success looks like for them as users of the airport as a precursor to council's consultation on the Wānaka Airport.
You might want to dig a little bit deeper into that one before that assignment's undertaken. Quentin, you can.
And I think Lyle's point is relevant is how do we, if it is a partner organisation, how does it assist council in answering the questions that we have? That's all, while appreciate the blank canvas approach taken at a community level, we often have questions that we need answers that you might be able to assist in, and that's a gap that I think we've had because the blank canvas thing doesn't always work because you need to have it needs to be able to have some direction to answer the questions and the problems that we're facing.
We're up to time. John, I'd encourage you to liaise with me, especially around how that pipeline will work, just so that there is congruencies agreement around where the resources are being put into the right areas and that they are addressing the right questions. But in the meantime, I've found this really, really informative. This approach, it's really helped, and I hope the rest of the board as well. It's really helped inform, and there's certain things in there and part of our sort of areas of interest and expertise there that I can certainly help pick up on, or we can certainly help pick up on. So thank you. So we will receive this, and Michelle will be that conduit internally for making sure that it's distributed to the right areas of council. So thanks for the hard work today.
Thank you very much. And really, last thing, just to answer Councillor Cox's question on the costs, I would say an order of magnitude less than anyone else doing it, put it down, because of the way we work and the fact we have a volunteer board, and it would literally be 10% of the cost of an external consultant doing the work.
Right. My point was, how much does it cost for you to do that? Because we're funding from public funds, so it'd be good to know each time, what it's actually costing. When the community asks for something, they need to know, what sort of cost that is to the community in dollar terms.
Yeah, and that was all set out in our proposed forward budget and our funding application.
Thanks, Rod. Thank you, John. Most appreciated. On the 18th of April, we had a meeting and the minutes have been circulated around that. Was there anyone that would like to make any changes or amendments to the minutes? Otherwise, yes, brief minutes. Otherwise, I will move that the minutes from the community board meeting on the 18th of April be confirmed as true and correct. Cody is going to second that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? So we'll carry that. So I'll just go back to, I've just skipped a section there. I'll just keep everyone on their toes, including Lyle, who's pointed that out, that before we move on, we're confirming the agenda is set out. So has anyone got any suggestions to change the agenda as it is laid out?
I'll move confirmation.
Very good. Anyone second? Yeah. That is Chris there. All those in favour?
Aye.
So the agenda as we have in front of us is confirmed. Right, first substantive paper that we're going to consider today is around traffic and parking bylaws, and Ben's here instead of Hugo. Hugo's the roading engineer. Ben, do you want to jump up here, mate? So Hugo authored the report and he is away at the moment, so Ben's going to be speaking to it. So everyone's had in front of us. So we've got some parking changes, predominantly in Albert Town and a little bit in West Crescent. Anything you'd like to add, Ben, to the report? We'll take it as read then. Who's got some questions around this particular paper? I'll start with John.
Oh, you're just looking at Alison Ave. Is there, are you going to keep the bus stop that's outside the shopping area? That's not shown on this new plan. There is a bus stop on the east side.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the scope of the work is no stopping signs, which is for the verges outside the road. Yep.
Can I just on that point, so I can just clarify, where it's no stopping is for the verges and the yellow lines are for the no parking.
That's good.
Yeah, because it was just slightly confused there that I was getting there. So there's only actually one part which has got the yellow line on it. The rest is just making sure people don't park on the verges, but they can still park on the roadside. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Lyle?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. I've had a fair few site visits with Rich, and we don't disagree with understanding. We're talking the verges here, and what we were looking at, and we're still working on it, is the impact of not having people who are parking informally on the verges incorrectly. And now there's a lot of space there. What we were looking at and possibly progressing in the future is providing indent parallel parking on some of those verges, because there is a demand for quite a bit of parking there. And then we've talked to the people, one of the houses here that's got the big verge outside her house. She's on the Old Town Committee. It's a bit of a mess now. They don't want to look after it. So what I'm saying is there is space here, not going against putting the no stopping signs, as long as it doesn't preclude in the future. If we come up with an idea to put some indented parallel parking to provide some parking, if we could afford it at some stage. So I just want to confirm that it won't preclude that in the future.
That's right. It wouldn't preclude it. The signs are more of a quick fix, and if any more significant works were programmed to like parking base, then they could be done in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Quentin?
Yeah, thanks. I was just mostly the no issues. I was just interested in the Friar Crescent one. is why do they extend so far up from the Ellison Ave intersection? It seems unnecessary that they have to extend that far.
Those ones actually extend between Ellison Ave and existing footpaths. So those are just verges where we don't want people to park. So put up signs.
Is that no verge parking as opposed to?
There's no verge parking.
No road.
It's back on the side of the road still.
Because there's a wide road verge, they don't want. Yeah, okay, sorry.
And that's where it was slightly confusing. It looked like there was a whole lot of no parking, but really it was predominantly no verge parking, and there was a couple where the yellow lines, which was really only on the bend.
We can try and improve some clarity on that, but just for reference, I guess it's the blue coloured hatches on the drawings indicating verge parking issues. Sorry, and then the lines sketched on are the actual lines on the road.
But then, I mean, there's clearly the places on Ellison Ave where no stopping is appropriate, and even Hebbert Court, because it's a narrow road, might need some no stopping as well. So no
parking. No
parking. Sorry, no yellow dash is not just verge parking. So yeah, it is a little bit unclear, I think.
Now we've got to get the understanding that stopping is actually meaning, which is really meaning no verge parking, and no parking is the yellow lines, which is no parking on the road. So that's there. It was slightly, I'll be honest, maybe just work on that. I mean, I know from an engineering point of view, and when you conditioned to understand, it makes really perfect sense. But for the layperson, what's the difference between no stopping and no parking? Yeah. Well, if you're wanting to extend it, I'm not sure that this is scope. I think this will be over and above. Quentin, if you think there is. So I think what we are moving to consider what's actually in front of us at the moment, rather than making.
Well, that's fine. But I'd assume slightly differently, and I don't know whether they've been. Because we even had something last week in the infrastructure committee. I think that this might be slightly differently presented to some of those, but I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
So is there any questions or any other comments around that? Would someone like to move then that? Yeah, okay, so Cody is moving.
So I just want to, but then the ones on Rob Roy Lane are no parking, though they're yellow lines, as opposed to no stopping, but it's...
So Rob Roy Lane, there's yellow lines on the road to stop people parking on the corner.
That's on the corner. Yep. Okay. So just so I'll put that on pause and we'll review it. Yeah. Were you?
It was just on the Reese Crescent loading zone. I'm sort of surprised who asked for it, because I look at all the businesses around there, all got off-street yards and that for loading and unloading. And I'm just, do you recall who asked for the loading zone there, or where that came from?
I couldn't tell you specifically, but it's come. I know that it's come through as a request, and the internal team, being operations and transport strategy, looked at it and assessed the need for a loading zone in that area, and determined that was a good place to put it.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Looking just around the corner and going now quite regularly, that particular part there are often truck and trailer on both sides of the road. One is the rockers. It's often, the other ones are unloading stuff to the new hospitality businesses and things like that. And there's often one on each side.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
So I'm going back and I'm going to ask for someone to move that the contents of the report be noted and that we approve the no stopping and parking restriction changes. Cody, you would like to move that and you would like to second that? John Wellington second that. All those in favour? Aye. Very good, we'll carry that. Thanks for your team, thanks for your hard work, thanks for stepping in for Hugo, and thanks him for the work that's been done. Cheers, Ben. Second item, and we're going to get Aaron to come up because Quentin's stepped away at the moment, and that's for the Wānaka Tennis Club Incorporated, a new lease, and there's members of the tennis club in the crowd. Probably a little bit generous, isn't it? Slightly sparse in the room supporting that. So thank you. So Aaron, you're going to present this report on behalf of Quentin. Welcome. Anything else you'd like to add other than what's in front of us?
Thank
you very much, Aaron. who's got some questions or observations around this extension of lease for the tennis club? Can I just, and one question I do have is that the tennis club is paying $1, very much a peppercorn rent for that. So is that because they are responsible for the infrastructure and the upgrade and stuff on there? When I look at, say, Kelly Flat, and there's, you know, the soccer club pays a lot, the football club pays a lot of money for hiring the grounds and stuff like that. Just where is that dollar versus, why is it only $1 for the club?
Good question. I'm not that over that community funding facilities policy, but a lease of such as this for a community, like essentially it is private, well, not private, but they do look after the site. Hence there's the peppercorn rental. I'm not sure with Kelly's Flat if there's a lot of other people who use that site and council does more of the maintenance. That's why there might be a distinction.
Before you stand up, Simon. Simon, what? Simon, my meeting.
Yep.
I invite Simon Betrick to come.
Sorry, far too fast.
Yes, exactly. Just a little bit of. I know you work for Sport and Rec, but that was a 100-metre dash. So
it's a very quick dash.
So I invite Simon up to maybe to answer some of these questions. So yes, the funding model around just why, who pays what for what?
Yeah. So the community facility funding policy was updated in 2023, and it contains two things. One, fees and charges for reserves and recreation facilities. And also includes some formulas and some information around leases and licenses for groups, both from a commercial perspective and non-profit, using council reserves. Generally, that policy is under review at the moment and needs a bit of work around the lease and licenses. It will be quite a time to get that policy just right. Just due to the complex nature of a number of the different arrangements that we have on our reserves. But from a sports group perspective, generally we support our communities by doing a peppercorn rent on those, if they are like a club rooms or in the case of tennis, their facilities. That is just part of our subsidy, I guess, is towards those groups. They are basically carrying the cost of the infrastructure they're putting on those grounds. Whereas if somebody is leasing a piece of land for a certain purpose, then they, again, if it's community, it's based on a certain formula, based on square meterage rate, which is very, very low for community. Whereas if somebody was leasing another piece of land somewhere that was a commercial organisation, it may be at a higher rate. So that's a bit of the work that the property team's underway.
Once we have signed this, if and when this new lease is signed, that precludes any review of what you were saying about the fees and policies from being retrospectively. So if we agree to this, the tennis club will be paying $1 a year for the next 30 years.
So again, it would depend. Generally, there are a number of, well, we can talk about this, a number of leases.
Yeah, it'd be quite typical for us to a lease such as this to certainly state peppercorn rental aligned with the community facilities policy, but also to have a 1 or 5 yearly rent review if that policy does change, which may allow for a different rental if the council of the day prefers to increase it. It's $2.
Yeah.
So I guess what we're saying is there are a variety of leases at the moment that some have longer terms with no rent review, if you want to call that, based on the community facility policy. And I guess our preference is to try and align it to the community facility policy where possible, but ensure that it gives security and tenure for the different groups on those sites as well.
Sure. It's just a matter of fairness, I think, just to make sure there's consistency and fairness there. I think the club is excellent. It's well patronated. It's awesome, but there's got to be any clubs coming up here and just trying to get some consistency. I might come back to that, but I'll just throw that to Quentin. You want to?
Oh yeah, no, look, I just wanted to. It was. I met with the tennis club. It might have been a year ago or so to discuss some of these things. I think they're a great operation. They do provide a facility that we would otherwise probably have to be providing through our capital program. And, in many ways, this is really good value proposition for our community. We have a really active tennis club. They promote the sport. They've invested in the infrastructure.
and, you know, even looking to other things like pickleball and various things to support that in the community. I gather it's one of the stronger tennis clubs in the region. Yeah. You know, I just throw my support behind it. You know, it's one of those success stories, I think, and and you know, the fact that we're providing the land is they do everything else, and it's that's a real benefit to us.
Yeah, just to follow on the consistency thing, I just to put it into real terms, have we got any examples where I guess the croquet club, are they paying 10%? I know we've got a lot of other clubs they're all a bit different though, like rugby clubs different, at least for their land and then for their building, but they're paying more than $1, aren't they?
Yeah, again, I think that's a lease arrangement rather than it's a lease or license.
It might be a license. This would be a license.
Yes, so that's a license dog, right? It's the lease.
Depends on whether there's a commercial component or not. As in,
yeah, I understand all that.
Yeah,
and the other question, Mr. Chair, I don't know if there's any indication of the were they allowed to talk about any capital or improvements they're going to do there, or buildings and things like that?
I thought the intention was, I noticed in there that there was going to be a move to upgrade the club rooms and the like. Looking for some.
That's certainly my understanding when I spoke to them. They were planning on doing some lighting, servicing, fencing, and upgrades over time. They've got quite a strategic plan around what they want to do there.
Okay, I will just that clarification.
I'll check that out.
Yeah. The answer is yes. They are.
Yes. Yeah, I thought I read that in the report. Yeah. Okay.
And lease documents have acknowledged that these things do occur, and they make provision for lessors approvals throughout. So, you know, the lessee can come to council and say, "Hey, this is what we'd like to do." It's considered, and an approval is given for the lease to make changes, lighting, facilities. You know, there's usually a lot that needs to happen along the way.
Through the chair, we do need a hearing panel, just in case we need to hear submissions.
Because this is going out for public notification, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But do we have to, we have to make that decision now?
You have to appoint a hearing panel just in case there are submissions received.
And is that 3 people?
Yes.
And do they have to be community board members or councillors, or what's the makeup of that?
It is because it will make a recommendation to council, but councillors sit on hearing panels all the time that make recommendations to council. So the councillors on the board are appointed members, so they are equally valid.
Okay.
So, Chairman, and the agenda talks about any 2.3, and you have 2, you have a spare one just in case.
0.3, yeah. Anyway, from hearing panel. Yep. Okay. So before I just go back onto the constituting the hearings panel, is there any other questions or comments anyone has around the substantive nature of the lease? Okay. So would there be 3 individuals that would like to put their name forward to be part of the hearing panel should it need to be established? Okay, so Linda, you'd like to? John, I'd like you to be, because you are the liaison person for sport and recreation and events. You're on almost every other hearing panel I think I've ever seen.
Obviously a 3rd one.
Yes, exactly. You're the same. Well, aren't you on the dog one as well? Keep telling us a story. I know. I'm comfortable with that. So I'll move that Linda, John, and Lyle. I think that's a fair balance, and I think that's really helpful. So could I just go back and then clarify? If there is a change in policy internally and we look at creating equity or fairness across the whole portfolio, and there is a decision to change the way that some of these peppercorn rents, whether it's for the tennis club or anything else, but we'll talk about the tennis club now, are we able to retrospectively change that? Is there a 5-year rent review within this? Because I couldn't see that that was the case, or is there not?
There's typically provision for a 1-year rent review.
I'm not sure about typically, but what is actually happening in this instance?
I suppose I think we haven't gone to the nitty-gritty of the actual lease, but look, annually we align things with the community facilities funding policy, and I've seen many conditions that do have rent review in accordance with that policy, or $1 unless changed by the policy. So if the policy does change, then moving forward there will be a rent review changing to align with that policy.
As long as that is provided for in the lease, because at the end of the day, the lease is the agreement. If it doesn't have that clause in there, then it'll be 30 years.
Fundamental part of the lease. I don't think I've ever seen one
What
without one.
What I would say is that, in my experience, there is consistency on how community groups are dealt with. It's the commercial ones that are the grey areas, the skyline, the even the golf courses and various things are the ones that might need review. I mean, I think the point of giving them a long-term lease is to provide certainty that they have tenure and can invest in the infrastructure that they need, and that is a benefit to both us and them. We have a policy at the moment. It's pretty consistently applied that, you know, the Coast Guard, the Yacht Club, the others pay peppercorn rental. I don't see that we need to second guess this, because that's our policy at the moment. That's how they're treated consistently for community groups, and we should maintain that. I think to provide them with a lease, but not knowing whether they're paying $1 or $500,000 is actually creating uncertainty.
You're being a little bit alarmist.
Well, that's
John.
That's what.
Hang on, I'll move on to John. I'll pause here.
John, just from the sums, I think it's important that there is that lease renewal option in there, so that things change. Just in the hypothetical situation that the club privatised itself, became more of a commercial operator, it then potentially had a 1-year ground rental of or lease payment of $1 a year. They became a commercial operation. So I think it's important that there is it's a standard thing to have a lease a rent review in it. I think the board is just concerned that that is included in there, just to cover any changes in circumstance.
Well, I mean, in most leases, there's standard clauses around rent and rent reviews, and specifically for community organisation, it is linked back to the community facility policy, which has not changed for a number of years.
But it is under review.
We need to review it, absolutely. But I think, again, that will go back to council. And as Quentin quite rightly said, Councillor Smith said, you know, we're not here to, you know, sort of make it difficult for our...
No one's doing that. No one's doing it.
Fully supported for the 30-year term. It's just that having that ability to review that rent, I think, is important on at least that length.
And certainly hearing what you're saying about if the club became more commercial, the description of the activity, it's actually not in here, but we do put a bit of effort into that to make sure it's a not-for-profit, it's a club, it's, you know, just we make a distinction between community and commercial. So.
And the rent in here is pursuant to community facility funding policy. So should the nature of the club change, it would change in the policy. You could, of course, be quite explicit in your approval to say.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's what Mr. Jones, I was going to read that, say exactly what you've read, and its bracket starts at $1. But I think that needs to be strong. I'll be clear in the lease agreement, and maybe comment on now on this board should be making it like the chairman said.
Okay. So similar to community funding facility at $1 annum per annum, but subject. I'm going to add the words there, but subject to any rent review that arises because of a change in the policy. So that does protect us that if there's a change in the policy that we haven't locked in for 30 years. Now, this is not, this should be standard, I would have thought, for every, now you might say it is standard in there, but I think that if we change the policy and then it's 29 years later before we can give effect to some or next there, understanding that the intention is that this is a wonderful community facility. We understand it does a lot of the heavy lifting around there, and we want to continue to support it. But I think we need to make sure that our policies and our leases are aligned there. Okay. Would anyone like to move that we note the contents of the report? We approve the notification of this under the Reserves Act as stated there, that we approve the amendment that I suggested around the ability to review rents in line with change in policy, and that we appoint Linda, John and Lyle to form a hearing panel should they be needed. Would anyone like to move that? Barry, you're moving it, thank you. Who would like to second that? Sure. Chris is seconding that. All those in favour? Aye. Anyone against? Very good. Carried. Well done, team. Thank you for that. Good result. Thanks, Aaron, for your hard work. Thanks for stepping in, Simon. And yeah, good luck, team, with the continued growth of the club. Licensed to occupy a road reserve at Tranmore Street. Kim, you going to join us for that? Good morning, good to see you there. So this is road reserve at Tranmore Street. I had to look up actually exactly where Tranmore Street is. It's not something that you normally frequent. So Kim, anything you'd like to add? Thank you. Who's got some questions around this licence to occupy?
Well, Mr. John, I just had a wee bit of difficulty understanding. Maybe it's just me reading the pictures, understanding exactly where the license, what they're actually doing on the path itself.
On the path itself. So on the occupation plan, which is attachment C. Yep. You'll be able to see somewhat from Tranmore Ave itself up the site, and it's actually the footpath that connects to the two upper lots, lot 1 and 2, from lot 3, which is in Tranmore. So they're just wanting to put in that retaining wall, the concrete block wall to the left of the lot 3 garage, just to stop the hill from coming down and flattening through the driveway there.
Yeah.
See that line? It's that wall there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the red line is the site boundary, and then outside of that is that little left-hand L-shaped retaining wall.
Can I understand, Kim, from your experience as to when a private developer is developing a site and they've got to work within the confines, and then suddenly they say, well, yeah, we're going to suddenly use public land to make this easier. You know, I'm just wondering, you know, when is public land, and when is it sort of up for grabs, so to speak? And I mean, I know it's only a small incursion,
yeah,
and I know that it benefits people walking. I think I know all that, but we are. And then my second question is, other than the license, other than the fee they pay to get this approved, do they pay any rent or do they pay any ongoing? So effectively, we design, you know, and when does too much become too much?
Yeah, for sure. And we do take that into consideration when we look at their application and what they submit with any sort of architectural plans, and that also goes through to our engineering team prior to putting the report together, just so that they're happy with obviously what's going in and whether or not that's going to affect any future plans within the road reserve that could come to fruition. So they look at that prior to us putting the details together, and right off the bat would be whether or not the applicant goes forth or is stopped right then. So this particular one is a 2023 application, and they've been working with our engineers and the developer to change this plan, because they initially had about 10 metres of road reserve retaining wall that went all the way across, and we didn't want that. We thought that was inappropriate to be having, considering there's only, I think there's about 7 metres before it comes on top of a water main in that Tranmore Ave area. Yeah.
So 10 metres was too much, but 4 metres is okay.
Yes, and we also got them to change the design of it as well, because it was about a 3 metre slope, and also what do you call it, a railing as well. So we got them to change the design completely. Yeah.
Just in the end product, who actually owns the wall then?
The wall itself is at council's leisure, so that's why the licence has that condition to state if we want it removed or if we have any desire to change that road reserve from a walkway, which is what it is at the moment, to actually make it a road, then we would ask the applicant to remove it, and then we occupy the road reserve.
And what does that do to their access, for which reason they've applied for the licensing?
It would depend what the future occupation of the road reserve that council wants to turn it into. So if we change it to a road, then we have to take into account that there's obviously a driveway or connection to council services, and then there's also a footpath that's say right there.
Yeah, following on from that, looking at the images, are they proposing to actually form the road up to the garage?
There is somewhat of a connection to council services road already.
Yes.
So they're just extending that as they would for most of the connection to
currently
council.
that's used as a walkway, pedestrian access.
Yeah.
What separation from vehicles and pedestrian access is going to be created as part of that consent application?
So the walkway itself is to the left of where they're creating that driveway. So they've already got connection to council services approval to create that lot 3 driveway. And then the walkway goes off to the left.
The walkway will be separated from where the vehicle is going to be.
Yes.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Should we be charging for the use of this?
We can. I mean, there is in the license itself, it does state that a fee of $1 if council should request it. So we can get that changed.
I mean, there is no wonder that we are struggling financially if we give everything away for $1. There seems to be a thing. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, I don't want to.
I'll move the resolution.
I think there's a way to be more commercially viable here as a council, to be perfectly honest, if I was running this council, but then it's not me. Okay, so I'm asking for someone to move that the license to occupy road reserve for Tremor Street, that the contents of the report be noted and that we grant the license to occupy. Who would like to move that? Lyle. Anyone like to second that? Barry second that. All those in favour? Anyone against? We'll carry that. Thanks, Kim. Thanks for clearly articulating some of the answers to the questions. Thank you. Cool. Right. Came up towards 11 o'clock and we just moved on to the chair's report. So that is a document where all of us as elected members get the ability to sort of showcase where we are engaged, when we're engaging with the community, and for any other matters to be put onto the agenda. Anyone like to make any other comments around the chair's report? Cody?
Yeah, apologies, I missed my submission into this, and it was mainly because at the time I didn't have anything more to add that hadn't already been said.
Sure.
But after another read through, I realised got to mention that Deputy Mayor Quinton and I were at Anzac Day.
Yeah.
On the Queenstown Highway. It was very memorable.
Brutal, yeah.
In the rain, an enormous amount of wind. There were hundreds of people filling the peninsula, so I was just so impressed with the show up in the community to wake up at Sparrows Park and stand in the rain for an hour. And yeah, it was an incredible turnout. Also went to the recent school musical from Wānaka-Upper College, which was awesome, a lot of fun, and congratulations to those guys. And then had a recent workshop as well around food resilience this week, with other sort of extremely talented people in this space, some world-leading ideas and thoughts that hopefully building a bigger picture of food resilience across the district. It was great to be a part of.
Yeah, Cody. Any other comments or additions? Wow.
Well, gee, we had a site visit. The Abbotsfield steering group had a site visit to the Abbotsfield and Franklin just to have a look. And it was also attended by property team, Quinton Howard and Emily from the housing, and the chair of the Abbotsfield New Zealand, Simon Hayes, was there. He's also involved in running the one in Franklin. So we had a good briefing from him and got to see and talk to one of the residents, the 96-year-old lady there, and see how it all all operated, and it was actually quite impressive, but very informative for just as we progress to see if we can push this on. And so understanding the land implications and how it will be used and how it's managed was very useful. Thank you. I just had a question also of you, Mr. Chair, on your report. You talk of just for my information, this has been accompanied by information sharing around ways to build the endowment fund to provide enduring support for disadvantaged students. Just wondering what endowment fund are you referring to?
So the Mount Aspiring College has got a endowment. So the college runs, and then there's a separate trust or a fund that's set up historically. It owns the international hostel that's there, so it owns that land and runs the hostel, so it's actually separate from the school. So that's been running successfully, but they've also had a fund there that they're wanting to build up and to invest to provide an income stream to pay for disadvantaged kids' uniforms, school fees, devices, and that side of things. But it's never really got off the ground. It's never really got that critical mass to try and get to, say, $1 million that you invest and you got $60,000 a year to, like the typical granting thing. So I'm just helping, encouraging them and give some ideas. How can we build up a critical mass and get some energy behind that as the school grows, as some of that disparity and who can afford and can't afford uniforms and stuff grows, and to support that. So nothing tangible at this stage other than sort of coming up with some ideas for fundraising.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, just want to add that together with Linda and I represented council at the wreath laying ceremony at the Anzac Day. I attended a sports breakfast at Hydro, and I've had a meeting with Tiny Carruthers of Sports at Hydro.
And is the meeting with Tiny, what's that, anything advancing there around?
Just the general meeting of things that are taking place currently.
Obviously, do you want to follow on a question on that? Then you talk more about the sports hub.
There was some discussion on the sports hub and also the Hubble, which is another how the sports hub will provide some services. The hub will provide different services and how they're going to react, but that's still a working process.
So that was still that shared services model for clubs and stuff here to not have to replicate accounts and marketing and operations and admin themselves.
Yeah. That's still progressing quite reasonably well.
Linda?
Just reference to Cody's point on how we are maintenance and fund, doing bits and pieces and reserves, and the Cadrona community developing their ideas, and we've had Luggett present their ideas through, shaping our future organisation. I'm still left a little bit confused as to how that funding comes about, and I realise it's from grants within the shaping our future, but in these communities at Hawea, for example, you've done quite a document already. Did you access funds through your Ratepayers and Residents Association to develop any of that document? Or how does Cadrona, for example, has done a very big community exercise, which, also gets to a stage where they do require funding. Is there any difference between Shaping Our Future, applying for funding, being a partnership group, or a community group like Hawea's Association or the Cadrona Association?
Yeah, I get it. Answer. I mean, the fund that we got from Master Plan, the Shaping Our Future, is just submitted through the annual plan, and it was granted on that basis, as any other community group can go to any other community funding. In terms of Shaping Our Future's funding, that's submitted for a community fund round at the moment for the overall role of John. But it's like anything, it's, prepare something, bring it to the annual fund, and that's all we've sort of gone through.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Anything else anyone wants to add, or I move that the chair's report be accepted? Considering it's my report, note the contents of the report. Anyone second that?
Yeah.
Thank you, John. All those in favour? Carry that. Fantastic. Bang on. We always seem to finish bang on 11 o'clock. So it's bang on 11 o'clock, and we will just have a small break for a couple of minutes before I close the meeting, and then move into a workshop with the Parks team. And will do that at about 5 minutes past 11. So I'll close the meeting at 11 a.m. Thanks for everyone's participation and attendance.